WABC New York, WRCR Haverstraw, and 107.1 WLIR Hampton Bays.
It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Talking the news with Noam Laden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noam
on 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me. Good morning. It is Monday, July 20th. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. A beautiful sunny day on the way. High 81 tonight and overnight. Partly cloudy, low 71. And then Tuesday, scattered thunderstorms in the morning, clouds in the afternoon, high 79. But if you're walking out the door with us right now, it's beautiful out there. 57 clear in Ramapo up in Rockland. It's 58 and clear in Lambertville over in New Jersey. And it's 63 and clear right outside our Midtown studios.
This is the Top 5 at 5.
Oh no, the World Cup is over. There's been another Legionnaires' death. Mayor Mamdani doubles down on arresting Bibi Netanyahu. 3 synagogues clean up after vandals attack. And how did a 1-year-old survive a 5-story fall? All right, let's get into it at 5:03. It's over. Spain winning the World Cup, taking down Argentina 1-0. Extra time from East Rutherford yesterday. It's the second ever tournament win for that squad. First coming one back in 2010. Spain fans, they were partying in Times Square overnight. I can tell you, I saw them as I was coming in.
I had a range of emotions, from excitement to tears to joy.
Yeah, on the losing side, of course, you had Lionel Messi, who did not have a single shot on goal throughout the 120 minutes of the match as the defending champs fell, bringing an end to weeks of world competition in the U.S., Canada, and Mexico. And it seemed, unlike other World Cups, that a lot of Americans were watching.
As a Knicks fan, to then win as a Spain fan, I am so happy. Let's go Knicks and let's go Spain.
Yeah, that was somebody in Newark yesterday in the Ironbound section. The crossroads of the world, home to the pregame fan events watched all over the globe in the last magical 5 weeks. They were celebrating yesterday as well when this one was over.
Yeah, think about a country like Norway. Nobody knew about it before this. We were rowing in Times Square, cheering in the stadiums. They're nowhere like New York City and nowhere like the U.S. I'm so happy about the World Cup.
Going from the Knicks win, to the World Cup has been unreal for the city.
The atmosphere and all the passion and having everybody from across the world discover the U.S. from another side, another perspective was also amazing. But here, I think New York City was an amazing playground to watch the game.
It really was. And right, to roll from the Knicks into the World Cup, it has really been a fun time for sports fans.
I think New York and New Jersey did a phenomenal job. Phenomenal. As a resident, right by MetLife, I live 5 minutes away. I thought that traffic was going to be a nightmare.
Yeah.
But, props to everybody that was helping out. It was not bad at all, actually. And I'm so happy that the final was in our backyard. It's a surreal experience, and let's go Spain.
Yeah, it was. Remember all the warnings about New Jersey Transit? It was going to be a nightmare. The traveling out to the Meadowlands would be terrible. None of that ended up being true. President Trump taking a victory lap in the World Tournament Cup as it, finally wraps up.
This has been the most successful sporting event maybe in the history of the world.
The president thanking the FIFA president Gianni Infantino for convincing him to let North America host this year's tournament.
I want to thank Gianni, this guy. He came to me with this crazy idea. I said, "Are you crazy? We're not a soccer country." And it turned out we were a soccer country.
Yeah, we are.
The 2026 FIFA World Cup has broken almost every record imaginable. This is the largest World Cup in history by far, by many times, actually.
And on the news shows yesterday, the CEO of Bank of America says significant economic activity generated thanks to the FIFA World Cup, which is, of course, what we are hoping for. Brian Moynihan says that soccer tournaments had an on-the-ground economic impact across cities who hosted the game.
And that spending is going into what we call bricks and mortar. It's going to bars and restaurants and things like that, not necessarily only the people in the stadium.
Yeah, Bank of America Institute found that consumer spending using credit and debit cards in June increased over 6% from a year ago. That's a lot.
Our team did a research piece, Margaret, that said that the total amount that is economically generated around FIFA is about $40 billion, $20 billion would be in the U.S.
Yeah, it's the biggest jump in over 4 years. WABC News Time 5:09. 5:09. The smoke won't really be bad today. I mean, you're going to still see a little bit of it in the air. You saw it over the weekend.
New York summer is the summer. We don't want another cold winter, so you got to enjoy the summer.
We didn't cancel like Shakespeare in the Park and all the other great activities. I know Governor Hochul said day campers don't take the children outside, which is hard not to do.
It was pretty bad at moments over the weekend. Levels expected to improve. Today will be the best day in the last 4 or 5 days, but it was pretty bad at times. I mean, you saw a lot of people with those N95 masks on.
I'm not super worried. I feel like this has happened like a couple times before, but I'm trying to like limit the amount of time I'm like outside walking and doing activities.
I mean, it's bad. You can tell by just seeing it, but beyond that, I mean, it's something we can't stop at the moment, so we're going to have to put up with it one way or another.
Yeah, I felt it in my throat on Saturday. Now, the word is we could see it again before the summer's over.
We're wearing masks, but also we waited inside a little later today because the forecast is for it to improve. That already looks better to us, but we'll keep these on a little while longer, I think.
Those were some tourists in Midtown over the weekend. 5:10, let's go overseas. U.S. Central Command says it launched new strikes targeting Iranian forces responsible for the deaths of 2 American service members in Jordan. News Nation's Jessica Cartalia has the latest developments.
2 U.S. service members confirmed dead. 1 is still missing. 4 were injured. They have since been released from the hospital. This now brings the reported U.S. military death toll since the war began in February to 16 service members killed and more than 430 wounded, many of them suffering traumatic brain injuries. The deaths in Jordan have now transformed the U.S. operation from being focused on the Strait of Hormuz more into retaliation.
Yeah, the U.S. responded to the deaths with another night of strikes against Iran. Iran retaliated by targeting U.S. facilities in Jordan, Kuwait, and Bahrain. And then you had the president over the weekend saying he wants to add Iran to a bipartisan Russia sanctions bill.
The measure would impose mandatory sanctions on Russian political and military leaders, oligarchs, state-owned enterprises, and foreign companies that support Russia's defense industrial base. In a Truth Social post Sunday, Trump called on Republicans to add Iran to the bill, writing that it's what the late Senator Lindsey Graham wanted to do. The president's request comes as the U.S. and Iran have been exchanging strikes. I'm Lisa Carton.
Now, over the weekend, the White House put Energy Secretary Chris Wright on the news shows, and he says the U.S. mission against Iran going to go on until President Trump's objective is achieved. He was on ABC's This Week, and Wright says that the president's mission is essential for peace in the Middle East and peace in the world.
The president is always looking for the diplomatic off-ramp. President Trump wants to end it with a peaceful agreement with Iran, but it takes 2 parties to do that.
Yeah, and the Energy Secretary, Chris Wright, he was asked yesterday if the White House plans to retaliate further in response to the death of those 2 American service members in Jordan.
It's tragic to lose American lives, but this is a mission that will save countless lives going forward. His focus is on degrading the Iranian ability to terrorize the world.
Now, a U.S. service member, another one, died in northern Iraq during a controlled detonation of an unexploded ordnance from a downed Iranian drone, that according to CENTCOM yesterday. And the latest we can tell you from overnight, a vessel is on fire in the Strait of Hormuz after being hit by a projectile, forcing the crew to abandon the ship. They were later rescued by a tugboat. 1 person has been killed, several others wounded after the U.S. military attacked the Iranian city of Tabriz. That's in northwestern Iran. That was overnight. And Iran condemning the U.S. for multiple strikes on an under-construction nuclear power plant site. So it continues to be a mess in the Middle East. 5:13, let's go from Iran and the Middle East to the UK, which it'll be a big day there. Andy Burnham, the former mayor of Greater Manchester and the new leader of the Labour Party, he's taking the final steps this morning to succeed Keir Starmer and become Britain's 7th prime minister in a decade. Starmer will travel the mile, he may be doing it as we speak, from Downing Street to Buckingham Palace to formally tell King Charles III that he is resigning. Then soon after, the 56-year-old Burnham will go to the palace and Charles will ask him to form a government. This is when he'll officially become prime minister, a moment known in the UK as kissing hands. That'll happen just a little bit later this morning. 5:14, while we're overseas, one person dead, more than a dozen injured after Russia launched an overnight missile attack on Ukraine's capital, Kyiv. Ukraine's military says 18 missiles shot down, while over 100 drones were also intercepted. In a statement on X, Ukrainian President Zelensky called it one of the most massive ballistic attacks on Kyiv. He says it's also important that their partners understand what's happening and that the air defense missiles are needed to protect lives there. That war now almost 5 years old. And one more story from overseas. Secretary of State Marco Rubio says plans for President Xi to visit the U.S. in September are moving ahead, despite accusations from President Trump last week that China meddled in the 2020 election. Rubio telling reporters at Joint Base Andrews that both nations are preparing for this visit in the fall.
When you have two big, powerful countries like the United States and China, there are always going to be irritants. There are always going to be things we don't agree on. But I think it's incumbent on powerful and important countries like ours to continue to talk and have a relationship. We owe it to each other and to our people and to the world.
Now, I will point out that China denied the president's allegations, saying it has never interfered in U.S. elections and has no interest in doing so. Rubio, by the way, heading to the Philippines for meetings involving the 11-member Association of the Southeast Asian Nations. In a moment, we'll tell you about the latest on the lettuce recall tied to that explosive diarrhea. We'll get into that in just a moment. But first, 5:15, let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk. Happy Monday. Good morning, Justin Ellick.
Happy Monday. Good morning to you, Noam Laden. Start here, of course, at MetLife Stadium, where Ferran Torres clinched Spain's second men's World Cup title with an extra-time winner against reigning world champions Argentina in a final marred by Enzo Fernandez's red card for a reckless foul on Pau Cubarsí. Barcelona forward Torres, a 62nd minute substitute for Mikel Oyarzabal, sealed a 1-0 win for the European champions when he struck from close range in the 106th minute, his first goal of this year's World Cup. And by that stage, Argentina had been reduced to 10 players at MetLife following the dismissal of Chelsea midfielder Fernandez after his foul on Cubarsí in the third minute of second half stoppage time. Argentina goalkeeper Emilia Martinez finished with 11 saves, the most in a World Cup final. Spain's dominance, was such that Argentina did not register their first shot until Lionel Messi had an attempt blocked in the 117th minute. It was just all Spain from start to finish there. Noam Laden.
Yeah, they deserved to win yesterday.
Yeah, 100%. Better team won. Could have scored 4 goals in that game, I'm pretty sure. Took a couple back from Spain earlier in the contest. And, Argentina just spent all their time in the defensive zone. Barely could get the ball past midfield. And even when they could, it was back in their defensive zone within 15 seconds. So really just sort of a lopsided final, but congrats goes out to Spain. Another World Cup championship for them. Let's head to the MLB in the Bronx. Jazz Chisholm Jr. had a tie-breaking homer in the 8th inning, and 5 Yankees pitchers combined on a 4-hitter as New York edged the LA Dodgers 2-1 to split their day-night doubleheader and salvage the finale of the 3-game weekend series. After that rainout Saturday night, the Dodgers took the opener 8-2 as Yoshinobu Yamamoto tossed a 4-hitter, but the Yankees found success with a bullpen game in Game 2 as Ryan Yarbrough, Paul Blackburn, and Brent Hedger combined to hold the Dodgers scoreless on 3 hits through 7 innings. Up next for the Yanks, the lefty Ryan Weathers starts tonight at home against Pittsburgh All-Star Braxton Ashcraft in the opener of a 3-game series. First pitch from Yankee Stadium, scheduled for 7:05 p.m. And in Philadelphia, Nolan McLean struck out 10 and allowed just 2 hits in 6 scoreless innings. Francisco Lindor homered and drove in 3 runs, and the Mets won a series in Philadelphia for the first time in nearly 4 years, beating the Phillies 6-1. Juan Soto, Luis Torrens, and Carson Bench also had RBI for the Mets. Lindor reached base 5 times, adding a single, double, and a pair of walks to his 6th homer of the season. The Mets finished a forgettable first half, 4th worst record in baseball, before taking 2 of 3 from the Phils. They opened Sunday 16 games behind Atlanta in the NL East and 11 back of a wild card spot. Up next for him, Freddie Peralta will start against the Brewers righty Brandon Sproat in the opener of a 3-game set tonight. First pitch from Milwaukee is scheduled for 7:40 p.m. That is your Sports Noam, and I'm Justin Alec on 77 WABC.
WABC News Time 5:20. Past week's hill country flooding in Texas, like last year, hit when summer camps are full of kids. But local lawmakers say they were not affected by the torrential rain this time.
I called one of the camps at sunrise and I said, hey, how is it looking? This is up in the Hunt area. And they said, honestly, it's barely come out of the banks.
Yeah, you remember last year, around July 4th, 25 kids were killed, 2 counselors. This time, the cleanup is underway. Department of Homeland Security sending FEMA teams to start the assessment project. Thankfully, none of the camps affected by the river overflowing.
So the camps upstream, from what we can tell, had very little flooding, if any. The difference is we saw that our neighbors were being flooded for about 2 days before this flood. And so that's really kind of the big difference that has happened here.
Yeah, all the warning systems they put in place over the last year apparently worked, which is good news. 5:21, the top man at the Health and Human Services Department been weighing in on this dangerous outbreak of cyclospora, the ones that's causing severe stomach problems. Now, the CDC at the end of last week, they were zeroing in on shredded iceberg lettuce by supplier Taylor Farms. That's some of the lettuce that's served at Taco Bell.
Now that we know the probable culprits, I think it's going to be much easier for people to make healthy choices.
Yeah, so Robert F. Kennedy Jr. there says the good news is the parasite is easily treatable with a handful of drugs. And he says the problem with the parasite is you can eat this lettuce and it can be in your system for up for 2 weeks until you start to feel the symptoms. That's the problem.
So by the time that people get sick, the produce is usually gone from the store, and it's hard for FDA to go and find and determine exactly what the source is.
Yeah, that's part of the problem, is just pegging this thing down.
Cytospora is treatable. There are 4 or 5 different drugs that treat it very, very successfully.
Yeah, so Taylor Farms has expanded a voluntary recall of its iceberg lettuce products sourced from central Mexico because of this potential link to cyclospora outbreak that has sickened hundreds of people across the country. So products with that potential to be contaminated with the diarrhea-causing parasite were shipped to 27 states, including New Jersey. But apparently they're pulling all that stuff, all those bags of salad, off the shelves. 5:22, White House border czar Tom Homan, he was on the news shows yesterday, says he thinks body cameras are the way to go after recent ICE-involved shootings. Homan making the comments on CBS's Face the Nation yesterday.
You can have a cell phone camera from a witness on the side. You can have, city cameras or whatever. But I want the American people to see what that officer sees when he makes the decision, takes an action.
And his comments come after a Colombian man in Maine and a Mexican man in Texas were both fatally shot by ICE agents earlier this month. In both cases, the agents were not wearing body cams. ICE agents say the men used their cars as weapons against them, and that's why they opened fire.
If you look at the data, body cameras actually exonerate agents more than they, provide evidence of wrongdoing.
Now, when Homan was asked about both of these shootings, he said that he would let the investigations play out, not comment on them. 5:23, Senator Mark Warner says he's not going to vote for Jay Clayton to be confirmed as Director of National Intelligence. The Virginia Democrat citing Clayton's confirmation hearing last week as a reason why.
His inability to answer the question about who won the 2020 election or commenting on Gabbard's, the previous DNI's effort to interfere in the Fulton County elections. I am not going to vote for him.
Now, during the hearing, Clayton was asked repeatedly who won the 2020 presidential election. He would not say former President Joe Biden was the winner, rather saying that he was certified as the winner.
And God willing, I hope the guy that becomes DNI is the guy that I've known and liked and worked with.
Now, Warner says he expects Clayton will be confirmed anyway without his vote. Hyundai recalling over 47,000 Kona SUVs for a defect with the rear center seatbelt.
The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration says the recall covers nearly 48,000 vehicles, including certain 2025 Hyundai Kona Electric and 2026 Hyundai Kona models. The automaker said the rear center seatbelt buckle may fail to properly restrain a passenger during a crash. Hyundai is advising owners not to use the rear center seating position until it's repaired. Owner notification letters are expected to be mailed September 11th And dealers will replace the rear center seat buckle assembly free of charge. I'm Jim Forbes.
WABC News Time 525. The families of two men who were switched at birth 38 years ago are accusing a North Dakota hospital of robbing them of the lives they were supposed to lead. The discovery was made through DNA testing. Kyle Byen and Jeremy Morrison were born at the same hospital on January 26, 1988. Their lawsuit in state court says they discovered just 2 years ago that they went home with the wrong mom and dad.
We would love to find out what happened and whom or what might be accountable for this.
It is crazy what all this DNA testing has done, right? The hospital doesn't dispute the babies were switched at some point. Unity Medical Center says it's working to better understand what happened, but of course, what can they do now? But the medical and staffing records that might have provided additional clarity to this case, well, they just no longer exist. WABC News Time 526. Kids in a rural New York school district will be one of the first in the nation to have a robot instructor. Correspondent Kelly Myers has more.
A New York State school district now partnering with robo manufacturing company Realbotics to roll out a robot in the classroom. The humanoid bot will be used in robotics and AI courses alongside an AI teaching program students can use on laptops, and that robot carries a price tag of over $57,000 and makes the school district among the first to have an in-classroom robot.
Yeah, okay, $57,000. You don't have to pay health benefits. The Salamanca City Central School District is in western New York on the Seneca Nation Reservation. That robot will be in the classroom come the fall.
Thanks for listening to the News Hour with Noam Laden. You can hear the News Hour with Noam Laden weekday mornings at 5 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode, so you never have to wonder,
what the heck is going on here?
It's the 77 WABC News Hour. Talking the news with Noam Laden. All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now, Talking the News with Noam on 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me. Good morning. It is Monday, July 20th. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Beautiful sunny day on the way. If you liked yesterday, it's going to be the same today. High 81. Tonight and overnight, partly cloudy, low 71. And then Tuesday, scattered thunderstorms in the morning, clouds in the afternoon, high 79. If you're walking out the door with us right now, it's beautiful out. 57 clear in Ramapo up in Rockland. It's 58 and clear in Lambertville over in New Jersey. And it's 63 and clear right outside our Midtown studios. Time for traffic, transit. Here's Joe Nolan.
Well, good morning. That was awesome.
That sounds like Monday right there.
Yeah, really, exactly. Man, it sounded like Dan Ingram there, full of heart. I'm Joe Nolan with traffic on Talk Radio 77 WABC.
WABC News Time 540. A third person's died from the Legionnaires' disease outbreak on the Upper East Side. Health officials have released new information about the second person who died. Now, the law firm that represents this victim says that he's an 88-year-old man who was a businessman and an Air Force veteran. He lived with his wife of 50 years in Yorkville. And apparently this was around July 2nd where his wife found him sick near an open window with 104-degree fever. It did not take long to determine he had Legionnaires. Here's the family lawyer.
He was intubated and on a respirator and was also having bedside dialysis as well as, intravenous antibiotics administered. And I think they're even monitoring his brainwaves.
Now, despite valiant efforts by an ICU team for 2 weeks, he passed away on Friday, becoming the second person on the Upper East Side to die of the disease. But now it's 3. Now, as of Saturday night, that's the latest health department numbers we have. 72 people diagnosed with the Legionnaire's disease, 9 hospitalized in association with that Upper East Side cluster. So far, they've ordered a total of 76 buildings to clean their cooling towers as they work to contain this ongoing outbreak. outbreak. Now, I should point out, Legionnaire's disease is treatable, but 10% of people will die due to complications from the illness. That's according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Of course, we had that terrible outbreak last year up in Harlem where 7 died. 100 were sick during an outbreak in that Harlem neighborhood. 541. Those were some intense rainstorms on Saturday. Yesterday, a lot of your neighbors spent the day cleaning up from some really serious flooding in some places that we don't always see it. Events were canceled. Businesses in some areas had to close down. The smell of sewage was lingering in Soho yesterday at the corner of Grand Street and West Broadway. The street flooded there Saturday, and there was a whole bunch of people inside a restaurant at that corner there. And that's when the flooding started to happen. And when it was time for them to leave the restaurant, the water was so high that the owners of the restaurant gave the people who had had this good meal plastic bags to put over their legs and clothing because it was like waist-high water. And then they had to walk out to get to their cars or the subway or wherever they were getting home.
Within like 30 minutes, like the whole street started to flood. The drains clogged. We had to sweep out all of the water so it wouldn't stink. I just told them, like, I have garbage bags. Do you guys just want to put it over your pants, whatever? And a lot of people did.
Yeah, I guess I have an adventure to talk about Citi Field on Saturday night. Noah Khan, there was a concert by him, but it was canceled, but it was at the last second, so people had showed up and pretty disappointed to be turned away because of these storms.
There were like groups of like young girls dressed up in shirts, wearing the merch, sobbing. We just felt so bad for like the young kids who traveled there or said it was their first concert experience. Wow. And we were like, I hope you never have a concert experience like this again.
Yeah, that's a bummer. In Flushing, Queens, one neighborhood that gets flooded a lot, flooded again on Saturday, and they're begging the city to help do something so they don't get flooded out every time it rains.
This has become a routine. When it's rained, we knew that it's going to be flooding. First, we had to move the vehicles. Now we're going downstairs, moving our stuff and storage. Food is spoiled, clothes is spoiled, appliances. It's like we have to restart our lives every single time a rain comes, which is terrible. Anyone should have that.
Yeah, the Office of Emergency Management responding to these neighbors, saying that the neighborhood's just challenging. They say the topography of the area makes it difficult to combat the big-time floods from coming in, so people were cleaning out their basements yesterday. 544 up to the Bronx. You may have seen the story over the weekend. A 1-year-old fell from a 5th-floor window in the Bronx on Friday night, and he survived the fall, which is incredible. So this toddler tumbled from a window from 593 Oak Terrace. This was about 6:40 at night on Friday. He landed face down in the back of this 6-story apartment building. The baby was alert and conscious when first responders arrived. Here was somebody who watching this all play out.
The fire department, everyone took measures to get to the back because the gate was locked. One of the young firefighters went into the building and jumped down to give everyone else access.
Now, this may have been a case of the parents not paying attention because one person of interest is in custody. That's what police tell us. They won't tell us who he was, but the New York Post, they captured a photo of a man in handcuffs being hauled away from the scene. Several other young children were also seen being escorted into a police cruiser. That was on Friday night. Now, again, the good news is this kid's going to survive a 5-story fall.
They brought him out on a stretcher, face down, but didn't seem like too responsive.
Yeah, so first responders tended to that top. They brought him to the hospital, but again, they say he's going to be okay, thank God. In a moment, we will hear from Mayor Mamdani, as over the weekend he doubled down on arresting Israeli Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu. We'll get into that story in just a moment. But first, 5:45, let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk. And here's Justin Alley.
Thank you, Noam Laden. Sports sponsored by Pete Morgan and Peerless Boilers. Go to peerlessboilers.com to find a deal near you. Peerless Boilers, the world's best-built boilers, will start at MetLife Stadium, where Ferran Torres clinched Spain's second men's World Cup title with an extra-time winner against reigning world champions Argentina in a final marred by Enzo Fernandez's red card for a reckless foul on Pau Cubarsí. Barcelona forward Torres, a 62nd minute substitute for Mikel Oyarzabal, sealed a 1-0 win for the European champions when he struck from close range in the 106th minute, his first goal of this year's World Cup. By that stage, Argentina had been reduced to 10 players at MetLife following the dismissal of Chelsea midfielder Fernandez after his foul on Cabarsi in the 3rd minute of second-half stoppage time. Argentina goalkeeper Emiliano Martinez finished with 11 saves, the most in a World Cup final. Spain's dominance was such that Argentina did not register their first shot until Lionel Messi had an attempt blocked in the 117th minute. It was all Spain from start to finish, really, in this one. Better team wins, so congrats goes out to Spain there.
I'm kind of sorry it's over. I actually thought this was a really fun World Cup to watch.
I agree. I think a lot of people are feeling a little sentimental and just a little sad. It's been a long journey, and, as of just a few weeks ago, we were watching these group stage games, and it felt, like you had these tiny, small countries still in this tournament. A lot of very exciting nationalism jumping around New York City from all of these different nations, and it was cool to watch there for a few weeks, and sad to see it go.
Can't we narrow it down to like every 2 years instead of every 4 years? Seems like a long time to wait.
Yeah,
4 years.
Well, in 2 years you get the Women's World Cup, so. And that we might actually win.
Oh, that we probably will win.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and we get behind our women here, obviously. When it comes to soccer, at least, they're better than the men. So they go out and they actually have a chance to win this thing in a couple years. It'll be fun all over again. We shall see. On the diamond, though, still got baseball going on for the time being, that is. Jazz Chisholm Jr. hit a tie-breaking homer in the 8th inning, and 5 Yankees pitchers combined on a 4-hitter as New York edged the LA Dodgers 2-1 to split their day-night doubleheader and salvage the finale of that 3-game weekend set. Up next for the Yankees, the lefty Ryan Weathers starts tonight at home against Pittsburgh All-Star Braxton Ashcraft in the opener of a 3-game series. First pitch from Yankee Stadium, scheduled for 7:05. And in Philadelphia, Nolan McLean struck out 10 and allowed just 2 hits in 6 scoreless innings. Francisco Lindor homered and drove in 3 runs, and the Mets won a series in Philadelphia for the first time in nearly 4 years, beating the Phillies 6-1. Up next for them, Freddie Peralta will start against Brewers righty Brandon Sproat in the opener of a 3-game set tonight. First pitch from Milwaukee is scheduled for 7:40 p.m. That is your sports, sponsored by Pete Morgan of Peerless Boilers. Go to peerlessboilers.com to find a deal near you. Peerless Boilers, the world's best for boilers. I'm Justin Alec on 77 WABC.
WABC News Time 5:50. Mayor Mamdani over the weekend says his administration is still discussing whether to arrest Israeli Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu when he comes to New York City, as he is expected to do for the UN General Assembly in September. He spoke to Lulu Garcia Navarro, who's, I think, one of the better reporters at the New York Times, during her interview show. Here's what he had to say.
I believe that Prime Minister Netanyahu belongs in The Hague. He's a war criminal who has been charged by the International Criminal Court. And what you will find is that is an opinion that is held by many purely because of what his actions have wrought over these last many years. I've also said that I will follow the laws that we have here in New York City because I believe that there's an importance in following the law as a leader who presides over our city, and that's something that I plan to do.
Meaning? I'm sorry, I don't understand what that means.
Meaning that whatever the law allows me to do in New York City, that's what we will do, but we won't be writing our own laws to that end.
What does the law allow you to do?
That's an active conversation with our legal department in seeing what the prospects are we have here in our municipality. However, what we've seen at the national level is a desire sometimes to write your own laws, to go outside of the bounds of legality. That's not something we have an interest in.
I mean, normally when people come to a UN General Assembly, they're granted a sort of amnesty because it is the seat of the United Nations. Is that what you're thinking that you'll honor, or you're actively looking to see if you can actually arrest him?
I think we are looking at all of our legal obligations, and one of them is with regards to the United Nations. But the other part of this is we're not talking about a personal assessment of Benjamin Netanyahu. We're talking about the International Criminal Court and the fact that they have a warrant out for this prime minister's arrest. And I think it's important to talk about the weight that has as a charge, and also that as the mayor of New York City, I'll be following the laws of New York City.
Yeah, so he's not backing off. And there's no doubt that Lulu Garcia Navarro asked the mayor about this going after Bibi Netanyahu and arresting him, because just a couple of days earlier, Bibi Netanyahu was on Sid and Friends in the morning, and Sid asked him about it. And here's what Netanyahu had to say about the threat of being arrested when he comes to New York.
Mr. Prime Minister, I know that, you come to the United States often, and I'm in New York City, and I hate Mamdani. I'm going to use that word. You don't have to, Mr. Prime Minister. I will. I hate his guts. And he has He has threatened to arrest you time and time again, which we know he really can't do. But he seems pretty steadfast on arresting you when you get here. I know you're going to come speak at the UN in September. I know you have a trip too coming to D.C., but are you nervous that he may try that when you get here in September?
No, I'm not. I think he should look at who he's condemning, who he's praising. He's condemning Israel, the one democracy that stands shoulder to shoulder with American values, fights our soldiers, fight shoulder to shoulder with America's valiant soldiers. But, who does he champion? Hamas, that calls openly to massacre every Jew on earth, that conducted that horrible massacre, the worst massacres on Jews since the Holocaust. He basically apologizes and excuses for Iran, the greatest terror regime on earth, that openly calls for the murder of President Trump and other senior officials, and so on. So he's with the terror actors. And I think the problem is, that he doesn't recognize, or he doesn't care, that those who hate the Jews and Israel ultimately hate America. And in fact, I think secretly, he hates America.
Yeah, so that was the Prime Minister talking to Sid last week. And then maybe all these stories are connected. I'm not saying they are, but it is interesting that there's been a fair amount of anti-Semitic attacks in the city since Mayor Mamdani has taken over. And you had one at the end of last week. 3 synagogues were hit. Some sort of bigot hurled motor oil and feces at 3 different synagogues in Queens to end last week. And so yesterday, you had the members of these 3 synagogues getting together to say, how can we protect ourselves? So one of them was Young Israel of Holliswood. And they have grainy surveillance that shows this guy running and hurling this mixture at Young Israel around 11:45 at night. Then they hit 2 more synagogues. So at Holliswood, they met over the weekend. They said, okay, what do we do next? We got to clean up, but how do we defend ourselves?
Our city is hurting, and this is going to metastasize if we don't stand up. The NYPD has been fantastic. The 107 has always been fantastic to us. They actually contacted us before we even contacted them.
Yeah, so it's not the first time one of these synagogues has been hit by a similar attack. The other one was the Young Israel of Jamaica Estates.
We want to create proud and resilient Jews. We're going to fight Jewish hatred, anti-Semitism. We're going to stand with the people of Israel, and we're going to amplify Jewish joy.
Yeah, so it was about a month ago at Young Israel of Jamaica Estates that a bag of excrement was found in a newspaper box. And so here we go. Similar attacks. Synagogues just trying to figure out how to sort this all out.
All humanity has dignity. Every single person was created in the image of God. Jews and Muslims and Christians and Hindus and Buddhists and all people of all faith traditions, of no faith tradition.
That's the rabbi of one of the synagogues who has hope that all this stuff will stop happening. And we'll end on a happier note. Madonna, Justin Bieber, BTS, Shakira, they were all part of the halftime show yesterday at the World Cup. And this was pretty cool. You saw all those kids who took to the stadium floor at the end of that concert. They were from the PS22 chorus on Staten Island. And they were the ones that were backed by Chris Martin. It's kind of fun to see them out there. Greg Breinberg is the chorus director.
This is like the capping stone. This is like, we thought the Academy Awards, it just can't get any bigger.
Yeah, so the chorus has played some really big gigs over the last couple of years, but for sure, playing before 1 billion people around the world doesn't get a lot bigger.
This is definitely next level stuff. This is a worldwide stage, and I'm so proud of my kids.
Yeah, so the 11-minute halftime performance was curated by Coldplay frontman Chris Martin, and that was part of the reason that PS22 was brought in. I guess he knew about them. Then you had the Muppets back there. At the end of the show, you had Shakira come back out. The kids, of course, completely jazzed to be on that stage at the Meadowlands.
When I found out I was going to FIFA, I genuinely thought he was just joking because Chris, he's a very joker. Very, very, very joker.
But it was real in the end. So they are 4th and 5th graders. And by the way, we didn't get to really hear them so much yesterday. I mean, you could hear them singing at the end, but this is a little bit what they sounded like in a concert just a couple days ago. Amazing. PS22 chorus of Graniteville, no doubt bringing a lot of pride to Staten Island yesterday.